Awesome. All right, good evening, everyone. It's now 8:02, and I'm going to call the City Council, Monday, May 8th, City Council hearing to order. City Clerk, can you confirm that we have a quorum? And
I'll do the Pledge of Allegiance first, Mayor Pro Tem. Pledge of Allegiance first.
okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so we can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
On which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Can you confirm we have a quorum?
Yes, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, we do have a quorum this evening. In the council chambers, we have Councilmember Estev, Councilmember Wolfley, Mayor Pro Tem and Debu Mavu, and virtually via Teams, we have Mayor Adams and Councilmember Hawkins. And Councilmember Gardner just walked in.
Awesome, fantastic. Thank you, Madam City Clerk, for confirming. I'm going to move on to new business item A, Bowie Marketplace Consolidated Storage and Car Wash, and I'll turn it over to staff.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem. Staff has nothing particular to say about this project. It was requested by the council that we bring it back for some discussion. But unless you want us to have the Mr. Minor rehash what the detailed site plan is, we can do that. Otherwise, we have no presentation.
That would be helpful.
Good evening, Council. Joe Minert, Planning Director. This case was reviewed by the City Council at the May 1st meeting. This is detailed site plan DET 2022-018, and what it proposes at the Bowie Marketplace is a 275,100 square foot consolidated storage building complex consisting of two phases. One is a 32,300 square foot three-story building, and the second phase is a 142,800 square foot four-story building. In addition to that, a 4,575 square foot car wash building is proposed. This property is about 4 acres. It's the vacant piece that's behind the Bowie Marketplace Retail Shopping Center. Council did hold your hearing on May 1st, and staff had recommended, along with the Bowie Advisory Planning Board, approval with conditions of the detailed site plan, and we had 2 conditions which we reviewed at that time. At the May 1st council meeting, council decided to hold off on making a decision and pointed out a couple of additional topics that council felt should have additional input from the residents on. One was the nature and the height and the stepping of the structures, that being in the storage building. The second was addressing potential noise mitigation, and the third being the provision of the nonprofit space within the consolidated storage buildings. We did send an email response to council on May 2nd concerning the nonprofit space. There was some discussion that night about whether CB11 applied to this project, and it was pointed out that CB11 does not apply because this project is in a location that was specifically grandfathered from the provisions of CB11. The other issues related to the height and the stair stepping of the structures. Staff has provided a report dated the 4th of May, which provides the diagrams from the applicant's PowerPoint presentation, as well as the zoning ordinance standards for stepping back buildings from residential adjacent property. So on page 2 of the report, you can see the profile of the building, the side elevation that shows the stepping, and then the rear elevation that shows the detailed, extremely detailed rear elevation facing the residential community. And we also provided, for council's information, the criteria for noise regulation, both from the county zoning ordinance for commercial, 67 dBA between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 p.m., and also from the city code, which has a very similar regulation for commercial property. So those were the issues that council identified. There was a question also about whether there was any reserved parking on the shopping center parcel for Acorn Hill Park, and that issue was requested for city attorney review, and the attorney concluded there was nothing in the agreement with the Berman Company that would provide parking for Acorn Hill Park. So with those issues being addressed by the topics that I just covered, staff is continuing to recommend approval with the 2 conditions in the original report. That concludes the staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Minor, and now I'll ask my colleagues, does anyone have any, Councilmember Wolfley?
Are you looking for a motion?
Do you have any questions for staff? Does anyone have any questions for staff? Okay, at this time I'll entertain, Councilmember Gardner? Go ahead.
I don't necessarily have a question for staff, but I do thank you for all the work that you've done, and I thank the Bermans for coming back out and being diligent and working with the city of Bowie. I know it's been quite challenging. My question is to our friend and neighbor, Mr. Larry Swank there. If you may approach. So I can't ask him a question, but I can't. Okay. The council member representing District 2, are you okay with this? Okay. Okay, that was my question. Thank you. Thank you.
Councilmember Stev, I saw you about to come off mute.
I just wanted to appreciate the opportunity to speak. I just want to say thank you to the Bermans. I hear all the time from residents in my neck of the woods that they wish that some of the shopping centers that we had in my part of North Bowie looked as good as Marketplace does. You guys maintain a good shopping center full of tenants who are very happy to be there. It's clean, the aesthetic appearance looks great, and I know this has been a very long journey. I know you guys have made, feel you've gone above and beyond in the past and today to clear basic hurdles with us. I just want to say, while storage isn't my first or second choice, the city did have a first choice, and that was 285, eventually 225 apartment units, and our residents unambiguously made their opinions on that heard. In so doing, the city lost all of its relevant leverage in being able to get something else. You guys have looked at the parking challenges, met with residents back in October. We had another hearing. I know that nothing you put back there is going to be loved. At the end of the day, residents would rather it just stay grass, but you're paying a lot of property taxes on that grass right now, in addition to maintaining a whole shopping center. So I respect, while I don't necessarily love this particular option, I recognize the long journey that's brought us here, and I appreciate the fact that you guys have put in serious work, you put in serious thought, and I know that there are elements of this that our residents will like and will take advantage of. I know that you guys are gonna, and you already have in your plans, looked at a lot of the aesthetic considerations that we've discussed, and so I really appreciate that, and I'm prepared to support you guys tonight. Thank you.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to reject DET 2022-018.
Is there a second?
I'm going to second. I understand, gentlemen, hold on, hear me a second. That of the district council member, typically, hear me out a second, everyone. I really try and work very much closely with the residents and our neighbors there throughout the city and hearing their concerns. That's my number one customer. I just have to say that. My neighbors, my residents. I've shopped, as Councilmember Stev said, it is a beautifully maintained shopping center. I want to say one of the finest in this city. And everything that you've done, I'm supportive of there at that site. My customers my neighbors, my residents, and those who are impacted directly by that erection of the gas station, or pardon me, the car wash coming online. They're just not totally, their concerns are that, one, they feel that it's been rushed on them. I say this is not the case. I explained to them this you own this property. You could put up there what you pretty much want within reasoning. And the residents aren't happy still. And I really want to get more support from our residents, so, and from the community. And I'm hopeful that we could work with the Councilmember Wolfley and maybe putting everyone together in the room and coming out of there with some idea and moving forward, because I want to support this. I represent them, and I'm the voice of many, and the many voices are telling me that they're not on board with it currently, and I have to vote for and support the voices of many. They are my number one customer. And I'm going to second Councilmember Wolfley's tonight.
It's been moved and properly second. Do we have any discussion?
Further
Hold on one. I'm going to go to Mayor Adams, and then I'll go to Councilmember Wolfley.
Okay, Madam Chair, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, there's a question, I think, for my councilman at large. Is he saying that he is voting against that being there, or is he trying to table this so that we could have more people in the room to discuss it?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, to answer your question, I'd like to have more stakeholders involved and community members, my customer, to come and be more involved with what's going on before I make that decision. And traditionally, we follow what the district council member, but I'm going to say I am doing that, but I've also had conversations with many of our friends, neighbors, residents, voters, and customers there in District 2. And again, I can never go against my voter. My voter voted for me to be their voice, and that's where I am tonight. And they've asked me to give them time to where they can bring everyone together and be more involved with the process. And I know that Mr. Swank last week came and asked for certain provisions and things of that nature, and to be honored and met. And they said they were going to do so, but I know they have not done so. They've not had the time to do so. And that's where I'm asking, Mr. Mayor. And I do know that the time crunch that you are up against, but I'm going to say this, and I know it's not your issue, it's mine. I shop in Harris Teeter, love it. The prices, the great, I like the small size store. And I bump into my neighbors there, and I know I'm going to be approached by many of them if I go against what they put me here for. And, you know, I pride myself on having, being that council member to speak on behalf of my neighbors and friends and supporters. I pride myself in being that person. So yes, Mr. Mayor, I like to, as I said, I second Councilmember Wolfley's request, but I really genuinely would like to table it to get more of our neighbors and residents in the room with the Bermans and hashing this out to where we can move forward to putting the storage facility and the car wash there. But I'd like to see some of those conditions met prior to doing so. Thank you.
Mr.
Yes,
Mayor, go ahead.
Yes. Oh, I was going to, just following up with that, Councilman, before Wolfley, and would you be amenable to Councilman Henri Gardner changing that to with your motion to just simply be one of just tabling it until we can get some more information, as opposed to taking a vote tonight?
Well, Mr. Mayor, in answer to your question, that is what I had hoped we would be able to do between the last meeting and this one, or the next time we took up the item that's presently on the agenda. And unfortunately, the applicant has indicated that they are unwilling to meet further, feeling that since they have met the obligations under the process, that they are unwilling to make any further efforts in that matter, which I think is unfortunate because I think that's a pretty low bar. This is a sensitive area. It's near and dear to a lot of people's heart and affects a lot of people. And frankly, I had been in a position where I'd hoped with a few changes we could all support this going forward, but there's been an unwillingness to do that. Specifically, there were concerns that have been raised in the community associated with the parking associated with Cheney and that business over there. When we had this issue come up before, the subject had been addressed through additional parking being made available in the garage for the apartment buildings, so that people who were utilizing that business could do it that way. Of course, now there's no garage, and the only answer is for customers to park in front, which is kind of like telling people who shop at the grocery store that they can park in the back. So I also have concerns about, upon reviewing the designs, I got concerns about the Phase 2 area, which, looking at the designs and the proposal, indicates that there's going to be some short-term use of that space, or might become permanent, for use of that space for single-story, low-level, outdoor access, garage doors type storage units, which is kind of like the base, the low-class kind of storage units that you'd expect to see from the old days, and not a quality product. And the unwillingness to deal with some of these issues just on noise. I understand that from staff as well as others that there is an ordinance, but obviously sometimes that's not adequate. And I'm sure that there could be some improvements made that would further improve the quality of the facility for both the users and the neighbors. So, mention was made about the height of the building being in conformance. When we had the apartments before, it was going to be, and it was approved with the condition, even at the county level, that it would be 3 stories on the perimeter and work its way up to 4 feet. This will be 4 stories or 5. This is going to be 4 right there on top of my local Levitt community, which includes 1-story ranchers. So to me, it's unfortunate. The grandfathering in of the property, I think, is inappropriate. We've seen from the rest of the community, nobody cares to particularly have these sorts of facilities in these type of locations, and my neighborhood's no different than the rest of the community. And that's unfortunate. And for that reason, that's why I'm opposed to moving this forward. I think it's inappropriately grandfathered in, and there could have been some better effort made to address the concerns. So that's kind of the summary of it. We have an applicant who's unwilling to meet further, which compounds the problem and perhaps puts a little salt in the wound.
Hey, thank you. Excuse me. Madam Pro Tem, may I comment?
Yes, please, Mr. Mayor, go ahead, and then I'd like to give the applicant a chance to respond.
Okay, I'd like to say, Councilman Dufour as well as Councilman Gardner, I understand your positions on this. I would like to ask Madam Pro Tem if we could get from staff what our position is at this time, and maybe Joe can address it, only because I sometimes wonder, whatever we vote on, it's going to go to the county council. And I would like to at least have some of those provisions moved forward with us, at least the 2 that Joe talked about, and some of the things that the councilman has talked about. Where are we with, I know we've heard from council before that, you know, if we voted down something, they actually, when it gets to a certain part in the process, our responsibility is just voting on the specific site plan and whether or not they met those. And I want to know if we're at that point and whether or not that's what we have to simply vote on at this point. And that'll be directed to staff.
Mr. Minor?
What I can say is that for a detailed site plan, the criteria for approval are very basic, and that is that the plan represents a reasonable alternative for satisfying the county's site design guidelines. And the guidelines, we pointed those out in our staff report. They're very detailed, cover a lot of areas. In our view, this plan has met those guidelines. It does represent a reasonable alternative. The county planning board date is May 25th, and the county has the option of approving with conditions, or disapproving the detailed site plan. But if the plan that's submitted meets the criteria for approval, the county planning board is obligated to approve it. And so that would be my input to the mayor. We are recommending 2 conditions, which I believe the applicant agrees with in the staff report. There may be other conditions that the council would want to add, but council's free to take whatever position you want to recommend to the county planning board.
Understood. My reason for that is just so many from the council as well as those who are listening understand. I'm just trying to make sure. At one point we were advised, I thought, that if we didn't follow, i.e. if we didn't stick strictly to whether or not the site plan was there, that we could actually be challenged in court for not approving it. And I just want to make sure that we keep ourselves away from that. Though I do understand, as I said, the concerns that we have. And I think that's all of us, because, you know, for me as well, you know, those are my constituents as well in that area. And so I would like to get a little clarification on that. But at this time, I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor Pro Tem, because I think you wanted to address something.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think now, Awilda, correct me if I'm wrong, can a representative from the Berman Enterprises respond?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Gentlemen, if you want to step up and share comments.
Mayor, council members, for the record, Brian Berman with Berman Enterprises. I'm here with my cousin and partner, Kevin Berman. Thank you for hearing us this evening. I'll be brief. Honestly, trying to control my emotions. I have been at the front line of this project since day one and worked very hard with the city to turn what was a horrible eyesore and a real detriment in the city into what we consider to be something that the city and we can be very prideful of. Having said that, I won't recast the history regarding the luxury apartments that we had spent a tremendous amount of time and treasure developing and designing, and what happened after that. And we made a decision that we were going to design something and develop something by the book that was 100% allowed, to your point, Mayor, that is a by right use, and that we were going to conform with every regulation, which is they are extremely complex. The process is extraordinarily expensive and extraordinarily lengthy, and involves significant community involvement. And this is the main point that I want to make out. Every single citizen that has wanted to have a voice on this project has been able to contact us. And for my humble opinion, the fact that one individual shows up at the hearing is a resounding support from this community of this project as compared to what was proposed before. So just to defend our family name, we are a community-oriented family. And we are extraordinarily willing and excited to engage the community. And the fact is that the community, we have followed the process, we have given the community a voice, we have met every single requirement, and you have a hearing where in other cases, 100 people can show up when it came to the apartments or more. I think you exceeded the capacity of the room, and one individual shows up. It is unfair, in our opinion, to be held to a different standard than that required by law. We have met the law. We have had our phone lines, our Zoom lines, our office lines open, and every single one, with all due respect of the issues raised tonight, we clarified over the course of the last few days, every one of those issues has been addressed, and that we meet the requirements of the law, of the regulations, and you can look around you. You guys know what it means when a community doesn't support something. I'm not saying that storage was our first choice. We know what our first choice was. But here we are, and we've designed something that we can be proud of, that can complete this development finally, and we want to move forward. We know what this process, what happened last time, and we feel, with all due respect, that we need to be treated fairly as well. And we've heard the citizens. We have heard the opinions of anyone who's wanted to speak to us on any one of the issues, and we have taken pains to design around those issues. It isn't to say that we're going to please everybody. Obviously, we can't. But we knew we had to minimally meet every criteria, and we do. And your staff says that. And your planning board says that. And frankly, the city council's going to say that on the 25th. Let's do this together. This is something we should be going arm in arm and saying, let's close the chapter on this and do it together. The Bermans are a good partner in this city. We don't want to have a bad taste again. We want to be a good partner in this city. We want to work with you, and we have been exceptional neighbors, frankly. And I'm telling you, you can see what we did at Bowie Marketplace. Our neighbors are not going to be negatively impacted, not because the rules say so, because we actually care. There's a dozen elements of Bowie Marketplace that are there and not required by law. Some of the things that you pointed out, those aren't requirements. The enormous amount we spend on the landscaping and the special trees and the events that we do, none of those are required. We do it because we care, because we're in it for the long run. And we're just asking, please, to be supported by the representatives that represent us too. And with that, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them. That's how we feel the way we feel.
Thank you so much, Mr. Berman. Does anybody have any other further comments or discussion at this time? Councilmember Wolfley?
Thank you. I appreciate your being here, and I'm sympathetic to your circumstances. And I too will keep my emotions in check as well. And I will say that this project is different than any ordinary project, and this community is different. This community spent $1 million put into this effort to help your organization, to help us. We are a collaborative part of the community. I asked specifically just for one component to see if we could iron out a few more elements here. And for that, we declined to participate. And your discussion about whether or not somebody calls you or not, immaterial. They call me. Not only that, I go knocking on their doors. So this is not just about who comes and talks to a developer or property owner. They don't know you, they don't feel comfortable, what have you. And frankly, there are times when they won't call me just because it's not top of mind, it takes effort, they're busy people, so I go knocking on their doors. I was willing to put my neck on the line, go out there and find a few minor compromises to make things work, and go back to the electorate this coming fall and take my chances one way or the other. Given the past history, I think you could be certainly understanding my circumstances. But alas, you were unwilling to meet with anybody further. And to suggest that just because we met the minimum requirement for the process, that somehow that is laudatory. That's not. Everybody has to do that. Yes, you have to do the standard announcements. Yes, you have to have the public hearing. And I do appreciate what you have done, and I'm sympathetic to the road that you have hoed, because it isn't easy for you guys. I understand that. But at the same time, it's not easy for the community either, and it's not easy for the representatives of the community. And it sure would have been a lot easier if there'd been an opportunity to finally iron out a few last final things. Unfortunately, we were not provided that opportunity. You declined to engage in that opportunity. So I appreciate your story and your background and your commitment to the community. I certainly hope you understand everybody else has the same commitment to the community as well, including me and the rest of my colleagues here. And when people drive down Stony Brook, people come home from a day at work, what do they want to see? And nowhere in this community do you have an uprising of people saying, gee whiz, I sure hope they build that storage unit in my backyard. How come they're so lucky over there? Right? And that's who I represent. And on top of that, we had a number of issues here where we had some arrangements in the past, and hopefully I thought we'd be able to get there. So, but I do thank you for coming in. I do appreciate your time.
Do any of the council members have any comments or questions on this matter before we proceed with the vote? All right, Elizabeth, do you need Dufour to repeat the motion, or are we good?
No, if he's not making any changes, it's fine.
All right, it was moved and properly seconded. I know we went on to discussion. All in favor for the motion on the floor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, same favor. Nay.
Okay, I didn't get a vote from Mayor Adams or Councilmember Hawkins. I got 2-2 right now. May I do a roll call vote, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, can we just do a roll call vote?
Okay. Councilmember Stev? Nay. Councilmember Wolfley? Aye. Councilmember Gardner? Nay. Mayor Pro Tem Ndebumalo?
Nay.
Mayor Adams?
I would vote a,
Is that nay?
nay with the, can you hear? I would like attached to my vote that if this should pass, or even if it fails, that we include to the county council that the recommendation of our of Joe Minor and the staff be upheld.
And Councilmember Hawkins?
Nay.
Thank you.
The motion fails.
I'm sorry, 4-2.
Motion failed. All right, well, at this time, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to move to approve Bowie Marketplace DET 2022-018.
Second. It's been moved and properly second. I'll move on to discussion. Is there any discussion at this time? Anyone on the councilmember staff?
I'll just say this real quick. I understand where my colleague, Councilmember Wolfley, is coming from. I 100% recognize the complicated history of this project, and I absolutely understand. I get the background, I get the context. I don't think there's any ill will on my part towards anybody, regardless how they feel on this particular issue. I'll just reiterate what I said before. We had an option A, we demurred. Now we're at option B. And for all the concerns about this facility, the owners of the Marketplace Shopping Center have done a great job. It is a great facility. They have put in the work. And while this isn't necessarily an endorsement of any particular industry, the fact is they've met all the requirements in question. And I would like, especially as residents have been telling us more and more in recent years, that high-quality shopping is what they want to see. At some point, we have to work with folks in order to get there. And if we keep refusing to work with people, or making the lives of our commercial shopping center brethren difficult, we're not going to attract the kinds of businesses we do want. All these things involve trade-offs. We have to be willing to do some trading to get the things we want. And so I'm a yes on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Estev. Are there any other comments? If not, I'll go ahead and make a comment and just say that I concur with a lot of the sentiments that Councilmember Estev has mentioned. As an equal council member, I haven't really received any comments opposing this matter in terms of District 2 residents, but I also defer to Councilmember Wolfley because that's his district and you would know better, and I do respect your decision on it. However, I do believe that what our vote is on tonight is on the detailed site plan, not on the viability of the project or whether we would like to see it or not. There was an opportunity and a time to do that when the county council did take up CB 11, and we had the same opportunity to write letters to the county council to recommend that they do not grandfather this particular parcel of property in. However, that's not what happened. And so given that we didn't send any letters asking the county council or make any motions or make any types of moves at that level at that time, and we are voting on the detailed site plan, my vote is specifically meeting the letter of the law of the detailed site plan. So I'm also in favor of this project at this time. Now, I do want to caveat that and say I don't really care for storage facilities. I don't like that. I did have an extensive conversation with you to explore other opportunities and other projects. So I did do my due diligence there to see if there was any other pathway forward. Called you long before this came up for a vote and was originally not in favor of this project, and still don't care for storage facilities, which you all are very well aware of. But given where we are, this is kind of what we've been given at this time. So at this time, I will move forward and call for the vote. Madam City Clerk, were you going to say something?
Do a roll call vote, if you don't mind, Mayor Pro Tem, just so that we have accurate vote, please.
That's fine.
Councilmember Estev? Aye. Councilmember Wolfley? Councilmember Gardner? Mayor Pro Tem Ndebumadu?
Aye.
Mayor Adams?
Again, a comment with my vote. I understand Councilman Dufour Wolfley's position. I find myself where I have to vote based upon the law as it stands now. And that may not be the best, but I think it's the appropriate thing to do. And I will have to vote yea because they met the site plan requirements, and that we also make sure that we include the recommendations made by our city planning officer, Joe Minor, and that we also make sure that if it's approved by the county, that those things are included for them to pass.
Councilmember Hawkins?
Aye.
The Mayor Pro Tem, the motion passes 4-2.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Well, looked like the motion passed. Thank you for coming out this evening.
Thank you all very much.
All right, Madam City Clerk, do we need a motion to move to budget session number 5?
Yes, a motion to adjourn the regular and go into budget work session, please.
All righty. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn and move to budget session number 5.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Please respond by aye. Aye.
Aye.
Give us, set
Awesome.
people up here, we'll be right with you.
All right, we'll go into a 2-minute break. Thank you. All right, welcome back, everyone. At this time, I would like to start and begin budget work session number 5 to go over planning and sustainability, information technology, equipment acquisition, general fund summaries, appendix, and wrap it up.
Well, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. You saved me saying all that stuff about what we're going to do. And so we're going to start with the Planning and Sustainability Department first. And for the people out in Bowie television land, I'm going to make sure you understand what the description is. The Department of Planning and Sustainability provides professional support by making recommendations on development proposals to the city manager and the city council and conducting both short and long-term special studies. In addition, an additional focus of the department is working to preserve and protect our environment and planning for a sustainable future through various activities and initiatives identified in the City Council's approved climate Action Plan and approved Sustainability Plan. The Planning Division's mission is to influence in a positive and constructive way and with significant citizen involvement the growth and physical development of the city, thereby ensuring its consistency with both plans and land use policies and guidelines of the city council and development regulations for Prince George's County. So that gives everybody a good idea what the planning division of the Planning and Sustainability Department does. There on page 129 of the proposed budget is a list of FY 2023 objectives. One of them, A, was to update the city's tree canopy coverage, and the objective was to do that by March. It has been completed since the documents have been written. B was to create a procedure checklist form for projects to simplify worksheets and update development review process guidelines by August the 31st, 2022. It was completed early this year. C was to create a handout that's titled, "What is a variance versus planning director's variance?" by December 2022. The new handout was completed early this year. If you flip to page 130, you'll see that if you look at the workload and performance indicators, you'll see that they are generally aligned, except this year, instead of 6 and previously in 21, 3 and the same in 20, we have 16 detailed site plans that were reviewed, which obviously more work for us and more action for the council as they come forward. Any questions about that so far? If not, I'll go through the objectives for 2024. Number 1 there, it's completed wayfinding plan for the Bowie Byway Trail system by June 30, 2024. Number 2, design and disseminate a new bicycle map to residents and trail users by March 31st, 2024. 3 would be to apply for grant funding for design and engineering of the MD Maryland 214 Highway Pedestrian Overpass Project. 4, coordinate with Prince George's County Department of Public Works and Transportation on Racetrack Road Improvement Project as it proceeds to construction. Number 5 there, develop a public information and outreach campaign to educate drivers, bicyclists, and pedestrians concerning bicycle and pedestrian safety by December 31st, 2023. Complete a state of place assessment for the Bowie Town Center, the Old Town Bowie, by September 30, 2023, and a general plan center and a general plan assessment of the Bowie Town Center by June 30, 2024. Complete an analysis of the American Community Survey data for the Bowie Town Center by June 30, 2024. All right. There are no significant budget changes in the Planning Division of Planning and Sustainability Department. There are 4 FTEs, the Planning Director, the Transportation Specialist 2, the Watershed Manager, the Executive Office Associate, and 4 people in that division. The majority of the spending associated with this division would be the $441,600 in salary and benefits, salary and wages, the $166,600 in fringe benefits, with $23,007 down in contractual services for professional services, which would be a contract for the technical services for various issues, including traffic, capacity, safety, environment reviews, and a bicycle map for the city trails network. Any questions regarding the planning division of that department?
Yes, real quick, Mr. City Manager. Just want to say a big thank you to Ms. Diaz, who's here tonight. I don't see Mr. Meinert, but I'm sure he'll be. Oh, Mr. Meinert, I'm so sorry. You're wearing bureaucratic camo there, blending in exactly with the background. Good job. Mr. Meinert, I have often said of you, Mr. Meinert, residents and stakeholders that you are a rare man who gives the name bureaucrat a good name. You have often said yourself that planning and sustainability is not one of those things that is necessary in a municipal budget in Prince George's County, and yet your work has so often been absolutely invaluable and essential to so many of the critical things that we do as a city and to so many things the City Council has cared about and prioritized over the years. I know for a fact that when we want something done, if we give it to you, it will be done, and that you and your team will consistently go above and beyond in carrying out the various goals and objectives we lay out for you. And so I just want to personally say a very big thank you to you and your wonderful team on behalf of the residents of the city of the Bowie for your tremendous work. A number of times you are on an 8 p.m. meeting with 3 or 4 graybeards and myself for no other reason than you just want to know what they're up to and get their input on something. It really, really, really does reflect the love and care that so many of our city staff have for this community. And so I just want to say a big thank you to you, and very happy to support the goals that we've continued to lay out for you guys. I do have one quick question, though, not just a soliloquy tonight, I'm sorry. I know that there's been talk in the past about taking a look at expanding composting. I know that we are steadily making progress on the single collection site. I'm wondering, what would it take, Mr. Meinert, to at least study the question of what savings could be achieved if, hypothetically, we considered in the long term replacing one of our trash collection days with a compost yard waste combination collection day? What would be the best way for us to go about getting facts in just answering that question? Is that data that's readily available?
Councilman Esteve, I'd like to allow Ms. Diaz to answer that question. She's done a little bit of preliminary work on this, and I think she's got a good answer for you.
Good evening, Council. Ashley Diaz, the Sustainability Manager. I think that a study, a cost-benefit analysis for that would be appropriate so that we could understand the extent to which composting would make up for or expand on the services already provided.
So, very candidly, I'm compost curious, is I think how I would describe it. As I talk to residents and even as I look at my own household, I'm definitely one of those recycling fanatics who's putting a lot of the wrong things in the recycling bin. I've had to learn to, when in doubt, throw it out, unfortunately. And while I'm personally not convinced that I could get to a point in the near future where I'd be personally composting, I know that the county has kind of leapfrogged us a little bit. And I know that other jurisdictions are making some really big strides towards this, but the part that really excites me is that I understand that the potential impact on tipping fees could be huge, that a big part of our expense in solid waste pickup is the tipping fees, and that by removing the food waste portion of that, we're potentially saving not just our environment from additional methane gas, but from overly burdensome costs, which is great. And I think provided we could get broader adoption, I think could be really, really, really useful. Do we have a sense, Mr. Meinert or Ms. Diaz, when you say a study, are we talking about a professional, contractually consulted study? What are we talking about? Do we have an idea?
Yes, yeah, professional contractual study.
We don't know offhand roughly what those costs, do we?
Of the study or of the tipping fees?
The study. I mean, are we talking a $5,000 line item or a $100,000 line item here?
I would say it would be in the middle of those two.
I think in order for such a study, where that much data would have to be collected, studied, and compared, that would at least be a $50,000 study. Of course, you'd have to get people who understand solid waste collection, understanding composting, so a lot of expertise there. And somebody crunch the numbers.
Understood. Maybe we could ask planning and sustainability to do a little bit more homework and come back to us specifically with, I don't want to spring this on my colleagues, but maybe come back to us with an opportunity to take a look at this more closely. I don't know, I I don't know if a majority of my colleagues are prepared to make this a goal for this upcoming budget year. I don't know if any of my colleagues have any additional thoughts on that. But maybe if we don't have the support tonight to formally move forward with a budget objective, maybe we can at least schedule a future meeting where planning and sustainability can come back to us on a formal agenda and we can talk about it more. But I would like to defer to my colleagues in case they have any additional thoughts on this one
Well,
or the other.
let me help you out there.
Sure.
Mr. Estep. What we could do is, if we could add an objective to the Sustainability Division, which is next, where they would look into that. And if you all would, support an addition of $35,000 to that budget for next year, hopefully we could use it. And if it exceeds that, I could use my contingency to pay it out. But just look at study. One of the things we'd have to look at is the issue of compliance. As what histories, exist within communities with regard to the compliance issue. You mentioned that you probably wouldn't participate. Well, we'd have to have a significant, how much participation in tonnage would we be able to project studying other cities to make it financially feasible and all of that? Because we probably need another truck, and you know how much they cost. So.
No, and Mr. Lott, I know you raise a lot of valid points. I think I would like to take your suggestion, Mr. Lott, of requesting that money be set aside for a formal study to be conducted in this upcoming budget year at a minimum, so we can look into it. We're not making any formal commitments yet, and as you say, public adoption would be kind of the thing upon which the success or failure of this program would hinge. But I think at least getting us some data would be helpful as we move forward, and this doesn't prevent us from making the other strides that we are already making on composting now. And I really appreciate your feedback. Thank
We
you.
can do that.
Quick question. Can you, first off, really love this department, one of my favorite departments in the city. It's just a great department. Thank you so much for your work, Joe. I have my own little nickname for you, but I won't share it in the public.
You're going to give the other departments a complex here, all right? I'm just saying. I got IT over there.
Have a no, that's my, they're neck and neck for favorites. So.
Got the police over there. Oh, yeah. We love the police.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry. I do have a quick question. I know, right? That's okay. All advocates. All advocates. No, he's the finance guy, you know, we have a special place for the finance guy. Okay, so follow-up question. Joe, can you and your department speak a little bit more to the importance of how this study will be beneficial and kind of like what it would help the city be able to do in future endeavors? Can you speak more to the why?
You're speaking to the compost, studying the pros and cons of the compost expansion.
Yes, the compost expansion, specifically with the focus on just optimizing solid waste routes, percentages, to see what we're picking up and how we can improve things like that.
Yes, as I mentioned, Ms. Diaz has done a little bit of preliminary work on this, and she could probably expand and provide you the answer that you're looking for.
Yeah, sure. So the tipping fee for regular trash is about double right now what it is for food waste and for composting materials. So, and it's estimated that 20 to 40% of trash is actually food waste. So if you were to take that out, you can imagine the tonnage would be that much less of trash, saving that much each, tipping time, and not to mention the environmental benefits, which keeping food waste out of the landfill, which is food waste is what breaks down and releases the greenhouse gases that contribute to the issues we're all dealing with. So the main thing, granted, participation would be important to see the difference and to see the cost savings and to see the environmental benefits. But we do have good groundwork laid for that. So I think a study just aiding in that, showing us how to best play that out, would be good. And I also wanted to add that we do potentially have a grad program at University of Maryland. They want to do a capstone project, potentially doing this cost-benefit analysis for us for free. And also the following semester coming up with some community handouts working with us. So that is also in the works. Thank you.
We love to hear anything given for free. That's wonderful. So if I'm hearing correctly, this could potentially be a project that the University of Maryland could study, and we could possibly get this research that way by partnering with the university to do research.
Yes.
Great, so we might not even have to pay for it. Sounds good. All right, well, that's my question. And then also, wait, one more follow-up question. When I was looking back at last year's budget, I think this is either for City Manager Lai or Mr. Minor, did we separate the sustainability department out? Because last year was planning and sustainability.
No,
Did we separate them?
This is one department. There's a planning division and a sustainability division.
Yeah, we did separate.
And so, but to answer your question, yes. So in the budget, we just discussed the planning proper, pure component. I am about to discuss the sustainability department, the division, but you guys jumped the gun on me, so we're in it right now.
Okay, wonderful.
All right.
Actually, City Manager, actually, I think since we're talking about pickups and so forth, one of the things I had raised on the issue of pickups was for our Monday recycle folks, and you guys had provided some insights as to what it would cost for additional holiday recycling and trash pickups. I don't think we need to go all the way and pick up trash on those days where we have, you know, Mondays, particularly the multiple holiday Mondays in a row, because we always have 2 trash pickups. But I would like to, with my colleagues' consent here, to add that into the budget for the Monday folks, which I think we came at about 60 grand, to ensure that we have pickup for our recycling on Mondays where we have holidays. Is everyone else in agreement with that?
I'll second that.
Yep, okay.
Well, we're planning, we're considering that. I'm glad you brought that up. I remember an $80,000 figure as opposed to 60, but we can work out the difference there. So what you're saying is that any Monday holiday, you all want us to be able to collect recycle.
Correct.
Okay. Now understand. Now with the union contracts,
That's triple time.
when you work, yeah. When
Yep.
somebody, so that's going to be a cost. So I can give that directive to Mr. Aldiuse, and he can program that in for next fiscal year.
Thank you, sir. They're going to be dying for it, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. I'll move on to the sustainability division of the overall department. This division was created out of the Planning and Sustainability Department in the FY 2024 budget. The Sustainability Division works to preserve and protect our environment and plan for a sustainable future through various activities and initiatives identified in the City Council's approved Climate Action Plan and approved Sustainability Plan. The division provides technical assistance, staff liaison to the Green Team Committee and all of its subgroups, and completes several certifications for the city, including the Department of Housing and Community Development, Sustainability Communities Application, Sustainable Maryland Certified Recertification, and the National Wildlife Federation's Community Habitat Program. If you all recall, last year there was a significant emphasis on sustainability that you all projected to us, and consequently, Ashley's position was raised to a manager level and demonstrating our commitment to that. The The objectives for 2023 were A, to obtain recertification in the Sustainability Maryland Certified Program, and by December of 2022. It was achieved in September of 2022. Initiate a new city incentive rebate program for electric-powered lawnmower maintenance equipment by July 31, 2022. The new rebate program was initiated over the summer. Initiate a sustainability business incentive program by December the 31st, 2022. This program focuses on businesses who upgrade their equipment, such as HVAC and other equipment, to the most modern and fuel efficient and most sustainable type of equipment. The D there, create yearly mailer to Levitt neighborhoods regarding the energy audit program and energy efficiency by June 30, 2023. The mailer was complete by February 1st, 2023, and utilized a new graphic focused on energy efficiency and LED lights. This was the last direct mail effort of its kind to save paper. Refresh the Green Bowie branding program by June 30, 2023. The Sustainability Division staff participated in the branding project team meeting throughout the year and has formulated ideas to implement once the city's branding initiative is finalized. If you go to page 134, you'll see the workload for this division, and obviously things are increasing with the addition of making this a two-person division now, and the enthusiasm of both those people. The objective for 2024, launch a new compost and drop-off program in collaboration with Public Works. That was assigned. Update the format and complete the state of the environment report utilizing both Brightly and ICLEI systems for tracking environmental data by September 1st, 2023. And the fourth one would be the composting study, the way I termed it, a feasibility study that should deliver at least 3 courses of action at some point, so let the council and us know what the results of the research is and what they recommend. Whether we can do it with using somebody else, using the university, we'll certainly investigate that. But if not, we're going to add the $35K to the budget in case we need it. Salaries and wages are a big part, $159,200 for salary and wages, fringe benefits $61,800. Program supplementals down here on the other charges, $70,500. Plant One Tree on Us program, for example, the energy audit reimbursement program, the residential rebate program for electrical powered lawnmowers, for which my daughter and her husband, they have the electrical powered lawnmowers, so I hope they took advantage of it. The Sustainability Business Grant Program, just to name a few. Any questions about the newly minted Sustainability Division?
Yes, one quick question for our new division director, or manager? Oh, sorry, one day. I've been getting a lot of questions at springtime. I'm very ashamed to say that I was out leaf blowing with my gas-powered leaf blower this weekend. I'm sure upsetting my next-door neighbors. Speaking of which, I understand that we have a lot of rebates for electrical on equipment, and I am getting more and more questions than ever, especially as our share of retirees grow, and those retirees are sitting at home in the middle of the day listening to leaf blowers all day long. They're emailing me about it now, including my own. Is there a logical dollar amount for our rebates? I mean, we as a city, it's like $50 across the board for the most part. I don't know if that's just a standard that we've set for the heck of it. Can you speak to me to the logic of what a rebate should look like for something like transitioning to electric lawn equipment?
Sure. Well, the lawnmower rebate has been in place for a long time, and that was the number that it's been. So when we expanded on it, we kept it $50 for the lawnmower, but it's actually $25 for each of the subsequent pieces of equipment, like hedge trimmers, weed whackers, and leaf blowers.
And this is an unfair question, but do you happen to know what a typical like electrical lawnmower costs as compared to a gas-powered one? I actually haven't gone lawnmower shopping in a while.
Mine.
I can also literally Google it in the next 20 seconds.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I mean, mine was very affordable. I believe that I got the whole suite when I did it at home, and it was like $300, maybe a little
Really?
bit, maybe $360.
Okay.
But something that I found to be affordable for what I got. I mean, I have 2 interchangeable batteries that, there's no cord. It's
Sure.
cordless, so you're charging the battery and switching it out when needed. So I found it affordable.
Okay. How many, actually, no, the number's right here, the number of rebates that were issued before. What I'm wondering is what we can do to encourage people to make the switch. One of the things that I've heard over the years is that there were concerns historically that the electric stuff just wasn't as powerful. As I understand it, the technology is catching up. I also understand that one of the big challenges we have with the sustainability part of this is the recycling, that the failure to properly recycle batteries is one of the things that kind of negates the sustainability component of a lot of this new technology. So I guess I have a 3-pronger. One, what can we do to better encourage battery and electronic recycling? And is that something that we should go through you guys about, or a different department? Actually, I'll answer that first because I'm not going to do this thing where I ask 3 questions and you have to remember them.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead. Let's start with that. Let's start with electronics recycling.
Technically, that would be Public Works.
Public Works?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll follow up with Mr. Aldiaz. Second part, do we, this is a difficult question to ask. I'm wondering if we increase the rebate to say, $100 as opposed to $50. Are we potentially opening ourselves up to a frenzy? Are we gonna send the budget spiraling next year? When me and 1,000 of my friends take advantage of the new $100 rebate?
Well, we generally see about 150 each year, so that would be a
Okay.
huge jump to get to 1,000. Maybe if we increased it, that I guess could be plausible, but that's not what we've seen. We've seen around 150 each year.
I'm getting very skeptical looks from some other members of staff right now that are making me nervous.
Well,
Does staff
if-
have thoughts
if-
on this?
Well, if you set a certain pot of money, and it's gone, it's gone, I mean, that's one way to look at it.
Yeah, that's true.
So we wouldn't be damaged past that point.
Okay, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
So we would also have to increase the total pot of money, which I know is going to have downstream effects as well. Let me do this then, because we're kind of shooting in the dark tonight. Would it be absurd for me to ask that we include a budget objective where we simply ask the Sustainability Division to take a look into what other towns in the region are doing with regards to their rebates? Oh, go! I see a triumphant smile.
So this was my idea regionally, and I
Okay.
had the sustainability coordinators in the DMV area, and I had pitched this idea to them, and only we went with it. And so now Montgomery County wants to meet with me actually tomorrow to discuss it because they do want to adopt a similar program. So we're kind of trendsetters when it comes to this.
Look at us leading the way. I love it. All right. Well, let's wait for Montgomery County to catch up to us then in Bowie, and we'll revisit this. And I appreciate it again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for this department? If not, we'll move on to IT. Thank you, Joe. Okay then, the Information Technology Department. The Information Technology Department delivers economical technology products, solutions, and services to all city departments. The major goal of the department is to ensure sound technological solutions are implemented to assist departments with the delivery of the city services by providing reliable communications and modern infrastructure. This goal is accomplished by collaborating with city departments to plan for the efficient and effective use of technology. It would be fair to say that, and accurate, that every department that we have is dependent on our ability to utilize automation and through one means or other, from filling up your tanks at the pump to issuing citations, and of course, managing our dispatch, email system, and various Munis-operated software components we have. Looking at the objectives on 83, you'll see that one was to improve the endpoint security. Endpoint meaning the user, the person sitting at the computer, by reviewing the current protective capabilities and procedures. Also create security standards for all endpoint devices. Procure and deploy endpoint security, and this will scheduled for completion by September 30th, and that was met. The staff implemented the Microsoft Endpoint Configuration Manager in August of 2022. Work with the Community Services and Public Works Department to implement a software to improve work processes for code enforcement. The objective was to complete this by June 30, 2023. The IT staff worked with Community Services to release a request for proposal in January 2023 to find a vendor to meet the software needs of code enforcement and animal control. The vendor will be selected by the end of June 2023. Implementation is expected to be in FY 2024. See there, review current server and backup infrastructure and create a 3-year plan for the upgrade and replacement of aging equipment. The plan will consider the use of cloud infrastructure to replace existing physical security for cost savings, and the plans was to be completed in December, and it was. D, utilize feasibility study to created in FY 2022 to create a subdomain for the police department on its network. This was to be completed by May the 34th, and it is on course. So any questions so far? If you go to page 84, and you can take a look at the workload and performance indicators, and you will see there an exceptional amount of consistency from FY 2023 to the projections for 2024. The objectives for 2024 are to implement the new code enforcement, animal control, and permitting software that was selected that will be selected by the end of this year. Implementation is scheduled for completed in FY 2024, obviously. Redesign the network at core to improve topology and flow of the network traffic. This is scheduled to be completed by May 31st, 2024. Create an intranet for city employees that would serve as a portal for internal and external resources. This would also enable employees to communicate, collaborate, and share documents and other information. The intranet to be completed by May 31st, 2024. Finally, number 4, renovate the information technology space at Ken Hill for staff use. This will include rooms for IT functionality, as well as double space for continuity of operations for emergency situations. The department will work with emergency management on that functionality, and is scheduled to be completed by June 30th of next year. Significant budget changes is the addition of 1 FTE, which will be called the Help Desk Lead, grade X114, a cost of $84,000. I'd like to understand that when I arrived here, the IT department had approximately 13 people and had not grown in over 10 years. But the mission of automation and the use of hardware, software, the cloud, and everything, social media, and everything had expanded. And so this will be an effort to help us better train our end users to avoid security issues and more associated with the operation of our networks. And like unto other cities have been ransomed and all that sort of thing. So that's why we desperately need that person. In fact, the director fell on his sword for 2 people, but we could only produce 1 under these circumstances. As you can see on page 85, the projection is to go from 17 people to 18 people. Salary and wages, $1,620,400. Fringe benefits of $506,700. Also, we pay a significant amount for professional services associated with off-site storage and system modifications. Communications for involves the city's cellular devices, Wi-Fi, and the telephone system maintenance contract, which is significant. And in repair and maintenance was the annual maintenance contracts for the hardware and software that we have. And then it's at 641 at the bottom, software as a service, SaaS solutions that we utilize to keep our systems operating. On page 86, we have significant expenses on the subscription licenses. Of course, as we all know, you have to pay for the licenses to use software. And the $398,100 for materials such as computers, servers, monitors, printers, and more. Any questions for the IT department about its budget?
Very quickly, sorry. I just want to say a big thank you to Mr. Peterson and see Ms. Denise here as well. Appreciate everything you're doing for us. What is, who do we need to talk to about making sure that from the customer-facing side of things, nobody ever again has to download a form onto their computer, click print, fill out the form, re-upload it, and send it back in for any city need? What do we need to be doing to ensure that everything we have to offer can be done electronically for residents who so choose to do it electronically?
I think that would be something that we'd have to discuss as a city. The IT department is more internally focused, but we would happily work with any, and actually it would be a very good goal for the sustainability department. But we would be happy to work with the communications department, especially because that they're more customer facing than the IT department.
Well, you're talking about that situation that occurred 3 weeks ago?
I don't know what the situation was 3 weeks ago.
Okay, so maybe I misunderstand your point. I know we had an update to our immune system. Oh, okay.
No, I just meant more that I'm aware of, especially, so as I put out my own communications about city events and things, I'm finding that as I'm going through, I'm like, oh, in order to like send something to Mr. Corley, I have to like print it, fill it out, you know, or kind of do it in a way that screams early 2000s boy band and not, you know what I mean? You know, like I want to get with the times is what I want to do.
And well, our budget objective number 1 aligns with that, where we're trying to replace, implement softwares for like code enforcement so that they can do more of those things.
Understood. So that is going to be customer facing, have
Yes.
customer facing
Yes.
abilities. Okay.
And just as a department, anything new that we get has to be SaaS. So
Understood.
that will happen over time, which I think what you're asking for will occur over time.
Understood. I said so many nice things about the Planning and Sustainability Department, but I qualified it with them that we don't have to have a Planning and Sustainability Department, even though we do. Nowadays, if you want to run anything larger than a 3-person flower arranging committee, you've got to have an IT department. And I'm thrilled that you guys are going to be at 18 employees finally. I know that you're pushing for another one, but I don't think people appreciate how much we face on the back end as far as risks, as far as internet piracy, as far as regular. How many total attacks did we have against our IT infrastructure last year? What was the number? Or is that not public information? I thought it was public information.
Well, just last month we had at least 10,000.
How many?
10,000.
10,000 last month.
So,
Attacks against our infrastructure.
and that's on average
Yeah,
for us.
yeah. And to date, we have had no outages, no disruptions to our electronic service from DDoS attacks.
No.
Not once. Okay. And we've got our backup at the Kent Hill Center. We're moving things to the cloud, knock on wood. So just so folks at home understand, You guys are doing a really fantastic job, and I know that your team, as you've been on board, have been thinking proactively about how best we can stay, maybe not 3 steps ahead, because there is no such thing in the world of IT, but not too many steps behind. And so I just really appreciate your work and the fact that you face a lot of challenges on your day-to-day basis, not the least of which is council members who forget their passwords and click on links that they shouldn't be clicking on in their inboxes. I'm sure that's a problem. I think your predecessor once told me that her biggest fear was what members of city council would do with their email inboxes that might bring down City Hall. And so, you know, hopefully we're getting better at it on our end too and making your lives a little easier. But thank you for what you do.
Echoing all Councilmember Stebb's comments, my favorite department. So my question is, it's kind of a follow-on to Councilmember Stebb's question. For constituent-facing services, is there ever a plan to go full automated? Let me ask you, let me give you background why. Like, for our water bill, we spent $20,000 on postage and stamps. Like, could that be something that we don't post to people's house and they just go online and pay their water bill online, like most service? Pardon?
Not if they're 85 years old or not. I mean, we have a lot of seniors in our water system, so we would still have to figure out a way to get to them. That's, I mean, but the young people, yeah.
Yes.
It's just a question.
Well, just to follow up on that, city residents do have the opportunity to go online and pay their utility bills now. And they can enroll in our direct debit program as well. So we are frontward facing on some things, and as the IT director indicated, with the move to a new software program that will enhance some of that frontward looking capability.
Will that be across all departments or just the ones that are named here in the budget?
Well, like I said, for animal control and permitting, that the idea is to take that online. And in most things, we will continue to do that. But as they say, we will probably still have to have some form to get to folks that are not as technologically astute as others.
I understand, that completely makes sense. But is that consistent across all of the departments or just the ones that are labeled, or just the departments that are named here in this budget?
I think that will be consistent across all departments eventually. I think we're headed in that direction. It's just going to it's going to be an iterative deployment.
Awesome, sounds good.
I'd like to say one thing about the IT. About 5 years ago, we had some problems with the phone system, and some departments were upset about the fact that they failed, but we got them going again. And it caused me to have an epiphany, is that, you know, if our police department goes away, Prince George's County will do something. You know, maybe not be all we want, but they'll do something. But if our if code enforcement goes away, Prince George's County would do that too. Maybe not to our standard, but if our IT department shut down, broke, we're out of business as a city, because everything, literally everything, is dependent on automation. And I passed that on to the other department director. He calmed down. All right, so. Other questions for the IT director and his deputy here? All right, no, it's just too easy. I'm sorry. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is equipment acquisition. That'll be on, we'll start that on page 161 of this, our budget book. The page 161 is a summary. I'd like to go straight to 162 and kind of get into the weeds by department of the equipment that I propose that we acquire in fiscal year 2024. Starting at the top left with the IT department, we propose to replace their ONS servers for a cost projected cost is $250,000. Replace backup system primary for $30,000. Both these systems have reached what they're referred to as end of life, and so we don't want them to fail on us, correct? Also, replace call recording redundancy, and in 46.5, that is the recordings of the call-ins to our police department that we record by requirement. And once again, it's reaching this end-of-life stage. The next would be building maintenance. There will be we're looking at a new hybrid SUV all-wheel drive that will be utilized by our facility maintenance person, so that we can get around to all these buildings that we own: Senior Center, Kent Hill, Gym, Parks and Grounds, as we try to keep these buildings up to stand at a high level of readiness and keep them pristine. So that vehicle's $40,000. So between those two, that's $36,500. And now public safety. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 vehicles that we need to get for our police department. Those vehicles have been stretched to the limit. As you know, our vehicles, some of them operate 24 hours a day. And as you can see here, the Ford Interceptor sedan is what we're focusing on. We're getting 2 Explorers SUVs, Taurus sedan, and we're lucky to get those, because if you look at the police equipment these days, everybody's getting the big SUVs, which are very expensive. And understand that once we get these vehicles, we have to equip them also with all the special police equipment. Also, a prepaid amount of body cameras, which is $100,000, and that puts us ahead of the game with a lot of, compared to other cities who do not use body cams still. I believe that. The next department is solid waste. These are all replacement trash trucks, 109, 125, 134, and 135. We've extended them. You know, I have significant maintenance management experience from my Army days, and we, looking at the mileage and the amount of maintenance it takes to maintain these trucks, these are certainly due. And we have to get in line to order them, because now it's just taking 3, 4, 5, 6 months longer to get a truck in, and we really need our trucks with our 18,000 residents looking for service. If you go to the top of 163, we intend to replace pickup truck 309, a mower, Toro Z597 mower, and an infield groomer. And of course, we have a lot of ball fields, and this is the piece of equipment that keeps those infields pristine and helps with the striping. We're going to replace another mower, 341, a core aeration machine, 359. I know will be used at our golf course and other places too, to keep, especially soccer fields and outfields, to keep the grass nice and plush. A leaf vacuum, 392, which is also one of those seamless required services in collecting the leaves, and we did an excellent job doing that this past year and before. And so looking at that, the total amount is $5,149,100. And reserve for future replacement is $2,247,100. Any questions regarding the equipment replacement? If there aren't any questions regarding that, Mr. Matthews will take charge and get us through the general fund summaries.
Thank you, Mr. Lott. Good evening, Mayor and Council. H. Byron Matthews, Finance Director. As we begin on page 21, we have spent the last 4 budget sessions going over each department, each capital project, and each revenue item for the proposed 2024 budget. This particular section pertains to the general fund. And before I start with page 21, I just wanted to recap the tentative changes to the proposed budget as of April 26. The net increase to the general fund is $85,200 for a myriad of changes that we made during the process. We've added $16,300 to equipment acquisition, and we have reduced the capital projects program by $1,295,000. That was basically the decrease of the racetrack property, but also an increase of $180,000 to move the elevator project for the Bel Air Mansion up to 2024 instead of 2025. The net increase in the water and sewer division was $91,300. In addition to that, we have $83,700, and this is related to public utility services throughout the city, particularly parks and grounds, ice arena, historical properties, and the wastewater division. We have determined by looking at our current expenditures that these departments will require additional funding in FY24, and we wanted to make you aware of that. The general fund will increase by $83,700, and the water and sewer, again, will increase by $16,900. So as I return to page 21, this is a summary of the expenditure appropriations by object, so that you can get a major or bird's eye view of all of the personnel costs, contractual services, commodities, other charges, capital outlay, debt service, and transfers to other funds as it relates to the general fund. Total expenditure, $76,296,000. On page 22 is a summary by function. Takes us all through the major functions for the city: general government, economic development, public safety, social services, public works, parks, culture, and recreation, as well as the non-departmental and transfers to other funds, and including the debt service allocation. On page 24, it's another presentation, and that presentation is expenditures by department. Just recalibrating the numbers from a function to a department so you can see the magnitude of expenditures tied to each department. On page 26, we have a summary of revenue sources where we try to highlight our major revenue sources. Real and personal property tax, $42 million. Our total intergovernmental funds will be $17,800,000. Our licensing and permits will be a little under $1.2 million. and all of our other charges for services, fines, and other revenues, which will total just under $7 million. The use of the appropriated fund balance is shown here as basically $7.8 million. With transfers from other funds, this is the central support revenue that the Water and Sewer Fund pays to the general fund. The graph shows those revenue sources by those major categories as well. On page 27 is the total revenue by source on a 10-year trend. And as you look at the total column, you can see how our revenue has trended over the last 10 years. And as we've gone from 44 million to 68 million in the proposed number for FY 2024. On page 28, Council, we have the tax revenue by source, all the different tax revenues the city receives: general property tax, income tax, emissions and amusement tax, motor vehicle tax, police protection, and our financial corporation tax, along with our hotel and motel tax. As you can see, the 10-year trend going from 37 million to 59 million in the proposed budget for those categories. On page 29 is a list of expenditures by function, 10-year trend, as we showed in an earlier depiction of expenditures by function, but that was just for the proposed year. This kind of outlines how those expenditures have been incurred over the last 10 years. On page 30, we talk about per capita information. The chart displays the general fund total expenditure and the total property tax revenue on a per capita basis over the last 10 years. Moving to page 31, and the most important page to our citizens. It's the real property tax rate and all the overlapping governments. Proposed in the FY24 proposal, tax rate of 45 cents per $100 of assessed value. The next column is to give residents an ideal when you live in the incorporated area of Bowie. Bowie residents pay a different amount in county taxes. So instead of paying the traditional $1 in county taxes, our residents only pay 86 cents in taxes. The question can come up to as why do we get that reduction in taxes? It's related to the tax differential, and it's also allows the city not to be double taxed for services that the city is rendering to its residents as opposed to services that the county renders. That concludes the General Fund Summary, Council. If you have any questions, I will entertain those now.
Sorry, Mr. Matthews, I noticed that the county rate for Bowie residents in fiscal 2024 is going from 85 to 86. What accounted for that?
It's basically our police department. And as the county, because that's our biggest tax differential, But as the county looks for ways to reduce the amount of tax differential municipalities receive, because it's all based on what expenditures hit their general fund. So over the years, we have seen a slight decrease in our benefit there.
So this is a policy decision on the part of the county then to slowly chip away at the tax differential that we're receiving?
Well, I don't think they do that intentionally, Councilman. I think it's just part of the process of looking at what services they provide and how much of that service is the city really providing. We had an audit earlier last year on the police department as well as the animal control department. They wanted to see our facility. They wanted to see where we housed our pets to make sure that the tax differential that we had been receiving was adequate and appropriate. In the same way with our police department, what services are they actually providing and what services are the county providing? And they're just trying to make sure that they look at that in great detail and make sure that they get it right so that they can provide the proper tax differential to the city.
Mayor Pro Tem, I do have a quick question. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Matthews. I do have a question for you. Have we maxed out our differentials? Are there any, perhaps, other areas perhaps that we would qualify for such differentials?
All the areas that are applicable under the tax differential program that the city actually participates or provides a service to its residents are included in that program. Okay. So there's no other way for us to go. We can provide more services within a group. Say, for example, if the police department handled all its murder investigations, okay, that would be something that the county would not have to do anymore, or to get the federal government involved. So the city would receive, an additional tax differential bonus because we're doing more of the services that the county no longer would have to do.
And this might be a question then for staff, Mr. City Manager, are there any areas perhaps that services that the city could provide and take away from the county to where we might could keep some of those funds here within our pockets and manage ourselves? And maybe you don't have that answer now, and maybe it's something that you might want to explore.
Look at, I mean, this is my 7th budget here. I'm having fun. I don't know about you all, but this is a lot of fun to me. Looking at the services that we deliver and what the county is, we are really close to maxing that out. However, we will take a second look between now and next week to see if there's anything we could take advantage of without generating more FTEs and more equipment, right?
Okay.
Right now, with the police department, we've got our solid waste operation, which is maybe if we were to get into the compost mode and in a large way next year, that could be something we could apply for a differential for that, since that's a service they're providing, I understand now, in some places. But we'll certainly take a look at that and be able to answer that question next week.
Okay. Thank you, City Manager. Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Thank you, staff.
You're welcome. Council, I would now like to have you move to page 299, the appendix area. That first page is the total personnel by department. It gives the authorized positions that you have provided for us for the last 2 fiscal years, and then the FY24 includes the proposed increases and decreases in the FTEs for FY24. On page 300 is the city's plan of compensation. Our COLA for this budget is 2.2% for our unionized workforce. On page 302, you can see our hourly scale for all of our positions. On page 303 is our plan of compensation for our police officers. Our non-command officers, the COLA is 2% with a 3.25 merit built into that number. Below is our command officers, lieutenant, captain, deputy chief, and chief. On page 304 is our classification plan. Basically shows all of the authorized positions within the city. Schedule X is our 37.5-hour workers, and our Y schedule is our 40-hour workers. Everything is listed by grade and by class. On page 304 and 305 and 306. On page 307 begins part of the demographic information that we provide in this budget as just information that people may be interested in. This information is pulled from our 2002 financial report. So that first statistic is our economic statistics, population, personal taxable income, per capita income, medium age, education level, school enrollment, and unemployment rates. On page 308, we have the assessed estimated actual value of our taxable property. As you can see in our FY22, the estimated value is 8.3. That was I believe, a 3.5% increase. Our next schedule on page 309 represents the principal property taxpayers for the fiscal year. On page 310, we have the principal employers within the city. As you can see, Prince George's County Public Schools is our #1 employer. And last but not least, we have a glossary section which goes over all of the acronyms that are throughout the budget book to assist the reader to understand some of the terms that we use on a daily basis, which are common to us, but not so common to the average reader. Mayor and Council, that's the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, I will entertain those now. Thank you.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
It's been moved and properly seconds. All those in favor for adjournment, please say aye. Aye. Have a great evening.